Hi, good day. My name is Dirk Phillip from Accurate Industrial Supplies, right? And this is going to be the beginning of a first series of videos where we talk about sizing and measuring certain products. Today, what we want to talk about are actually O-rings, right? It's something that is widely used and grossly misunderstood in most applications, right? Very important little part, but basically what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can size and measure an O-ring and the important points of an O-ring. The important thing in an O-ring, what we will need is the inside diameter, right? And the cross-sectional thickness. Those are the two important parts that are required in measuring an O-ring. The outer diameter, or OD as they call it, right, is not that important, because if we have the ID and we have the cross-section, we can always work out the OD, right? A lot of times people come to me and they try to bring the OD measurement and that's not really what we need. ID and cross-section is all that we need, right? Right, so the basic O-ring standards that they have is the AS568A, which is an international standard, right? And that's basically an imperial standard, right, of measurement. Right? It's the most popular one. It's that's out there on the market. They do have metric standards, but we'll talk a little bit about that later on as we go along. Right? Now, in this AS568A standard, there are basic cross-section sizes that O-rings come in. 1/16, 3/32, 1/8, 3/16, and quarter. That's it. So a lot of times people come and they want something a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, but it doesn't really exist. If it's not 1/16, it's going to be 3/32, and it's a big difference between 1/16 and 3/32 in terms of the cross-sectional thickness of the O-ring, right? But what happens, what people get confused with a lot of the times, and they don't understand, right, is that O-rings have what they call an actual size and a nominal size, right? Now, what the O-ring actually is actually bigger than it's nominally sized. And that is where people will come with a vernier and try to measure the O-ring exact, and then they go and they try to find the exact size, and when you can't find it on the chart, right? So that is where the misunderstanding comes in with O-rings. All right, so let me give you an example of how O-rings are very different in cross-section, and they're just not a little bit bigger kind of thing or a little bit smaller, right? What I have in front of me here is we have three 1-inch ID cross-section, 1-inch ID O-rings, and they all have different cross-section. This one is a 1/16 cross-section, this is a 3/32 cross-section, and this is a 1/8 cross-section. They all have 1-inch IDs on them, and that's how we know. So basically, all you would need to do, there is a standard chart that you can work with. I like this little chart because it kind of puts all the sizes by ID on one, and then they have all the cross sections coming across. And basically, once you find your ID, your correct ID, and you could come across with your O-ring cross section, you could easily size it, right? All right, so using a standard 6-inch rule, which is in graduations of 32nds, 16ths, right? As we can see here, we're going to measure our cross section, and we can see that the cross section is 1/16. Then we're going to measure the internal diameter, right? And as we can see here, we have an internal diameter that is, and like I said, don't get too, finite with it, but we have a more or less an internal diameter of 1 inch, right? So from that, we now have the cross section, we have the ID. We can then go to our sizing chart here. Standard, as I mentioned, AS568 O-ring standard chart. Go down to 1 inch, under the 1/16, and this O-ring will measure a 0.22. Okay, so as I mentioned about the actual and nominal sizes, here's an O-ring gland chart showing O-ring gland designs, right? And as you can see from the 1/16 cross section, they talk about the nominal size 1/16, which we spoke about, right? And then there's the actual size. So in other words, 1/16 cross section, right, actually is 0.070, right? and plus or minus 3/1000. So it can vary. That's actually 8/1000 of an inch difference from the actual size. So when you're looking at an O-ring, when you're trying to measure the exact size with a vernier, you may get a little confused and you may tell yourself, well, this might be metric, but it's not. It's actually a 1/16 cross section that is actually 0.070, which is a little bigger than 1/16 because 1/16 is 0.062. Okay, so if you don't have the confidence in the ruler, here's a nice convenient tool that they have. It's called an O-ring gauge cone, right? And basically what you do is you have they have notches on the bottom, right, where you can confirm your cross section size. Here is, we see that fits good, so that's tells us that that's a 1/16 cross section. Above that will be our scale. So what we do is drop it on the cone, right, and then under the same cross section, and you realize that it's a 0.22, exactly as we measured. So this was the 1/16th, right? Here is the, nope, that's not it. Here is the 1/8 cross section. So then this will be your 1/8 scale here, right? And then here will be your 3/32 cross section, right? Because that fits perfectly. Then this becomes your 3/32 O-ring scale, basically. That's it. Okay, now with metric O-rings, it's different. What you see is what you get. There's no actual and no nominal in metric O-rings. A 5mm ID is a 5mm ID. A 2mm cross section is a 2mm cross section, right? But it's still not as common as the standard O-ring sizes, which is inch imperial sizes, AS568, which is the more common standard. But we do carry metric sizes as well. Okay, well, I think this brings us into the end of this video and I hope this was informative to you to be able to size and measure your O-ring so you get the right O-ring, right? Thank you for watching our video, right? And please feel free to contact us. See our links below, right? And if you have any questions, contact us and we'll be glad to be able to see how we can help you. Thanks again for watching this video.